And welcome back to the Law and Crime Network. I'm your host, Amy Dash, and I'm joined right now by Mark Eiglarsh. He's with me on Skype. He's a prominent attorney in Florida. Mark, are you there?
I am. How are you, Amy?
Good. How are you? There you are.
Yes.
So we were listening to Leon Jacobs' testimony, and he is being confronted with his conversation that was taped with the undercover cop. At one point he says, which was the last thing that we heard, that he doesn't want anyone to get hurt, or he would prefer that someone not get hurt. But then, of course, that's contradicted by statements that he says where he basically gives permission. He's asking to threaten and you could kill the girlfriend, he says to the guy, if she doesn't cooperate. So the fact that you have those contradicting statements, but at one point you do hear him say that he prefers that no one get hurt and he just wants his legal problems to go away. Which will hold the most water, do you think, with the jury?
Well, we don't know who these people are. We don't know what they're thinking, what their backgrounds are. We do know the defense loves hearing a statement like that, where somebody says something that arguably indicates that they don't want to commit the sanction that the prosecution is levying against them. But saying I don't want somebody hurt, even though it's sounds on its face like he doesn't, if everything else seems to suggest otherwise, then that's not going to fly.
Does the fact that, from a criminal defense standpoint, does the fact that he's meeting with the undercover cop to potentially hire him to commit a kidnapping, does that support the allegation in and of itself? Or do the statements matter?
Well, everything depends upon what they conclude. And the jurors are the ultimate finders of the facts, right? So I think at one point he's alleging, no, I was meeting because I was just simply meeting with a private investigator for some innocuous purpose. If, as your question suggests, he's conceding it's because he wants to kidnap someone, that's not good. What I do when I'm trying cases is I try to put jurors in the position of the defendants and make it seem like, well, who wouldn't do this? Who wouldn't do this? Well, hire someone for a kidnapping? Most would not.
Most would not, but by the same token, it doesn't really support solicitation to commit capital murder, does it?
No, it doesn't. In and of itself, it does not, nor do bloodshot eyes alone equal DUI, nor does slurred speech, or as I'd like to say, speaking in cursive, equal DUI. What does is you take all the different pieces of the puzzle, as most prosecutors allege in their closing arguments. You get the money, you get the conversation that actually took place, you get all of it, you put it together, and that equals one thing, and that's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
So if he gives permission to kill the ex-girlfriend if she doesn't cooperate, would that in and of itself support solicitation to commit capital murder?
You got to tell me more about your hypotheses. Say that again.
He says to the undercover cop, hypothetically speaking, I want you to kidnap her. I want you to threaten her. I want you to scare her so that she doesn't cause problems for me. But I'd prefer that nobody gets hurt. But if she doesn't cooperate, you have my permission to kill her.
Well, listen, all day long, I think jurors are going to find that meets the elements. That last part that you added in, I was with you. I was like holding out. Boy, if those are the only words, that could be a not guilty, But then you say you've got my permission to go ahead and hurt her. Well, that's the plan B, So he's saying, yes, I am telling you, I'm paying you this money to do all those things, and then you also get to harm her, meaning kill her. Yeah, I think that's a problem.
So the fact that there's a condition on it really doesn't matter.
To me, it doesn't. I'm not a juror, though.
Versus hiring someone and saying, I want you to kill this person.
Right. Listen, depends what hat you're going to ask me to wear. As a juror, I say he's guilty. If those are the facts, as you allege. If it's me, the defense lawyer, I pound on my chest and I say that's insufficient. That's not enough.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's go back to court right now and see if he's going to provide some more of that salacious testimony.
Are you familiar with this conversation? Do you recall it?
Yes.
About the 158 marker.
Okay.
I'm going to play real quick.
And as far as my situation goes, the thing is my situation away, then his situation away. Well, besides, we don't even know about it all.
kind of convoluted, but you say, if my situation goes away, then this situation goes away as well. What are those situations?
What I was referring to was that if the assault, family violence, and the stalking charges were dropped, that Mac would not have a complaint about Valerie and I cohabitating when their daughter Natalie was around.
And how were you going to get those charges dropped?
I just wanted Megan to go back to Pittsburgh so she just wouldn't be involved in testifying.
And was that your plan to get to go back to Pittsburgh?
I'm going to object to asked and answered.
Sustained. But so the problems were linked. Would you clarify that just one more time for me? I apologize. How were the problems linked?
Mac's complaints.
If this goes away, then my problems go away. What was Leon Jacob talking about? That's what they were trying to get to. We're going to come back with his testimony after this very short commercial break. So please stay with us. Welcome back to the Law and Crime Network. I'm your host, Amy Dash. Let's get right back to court where we are listening to the testimony of Leon Jacob as he's being charged in a plot to hire somebody to kill his ex-girlfriend.
I'm sorry, just one more time. How were you going to get those charges dismissed?
Asked and answered.
Sustained. Moving on to the next audio recording. I'm going to go ahead and give you a transcript for background. May I approach, Your Honor? At about the 155 marker of tape number 5, I will play it here in 1 second.
Yeah, I did. That's to you and her as far as walk down.
I'm going to back it up a little bit just for clarity for the jury. I'm going to back it up to about 148.
We'll figure out something.
Okay, I mean, I really prefer it to be today, so that payment, but that's fine. We can think of something.
Yeah, I did. That's to you and her as far as walk down. I think that you guys had a conversation that we can talk about some monetary stuff, which she looks at multiple for to get her a bag from New York. Just give me a call a little later.
Copy.
All right.
Okay, bud.
So, what's happening here?
The undercover officer, or Adam, is pushing to get a payment.
What was that payment for?
It was part of the $10,000 that he and Valerie agreed for, whatever that time. My understanding was whatever they had agreed upon. But I think, indicated that we weren't going to give any more money at present until some stuff had been done. But he wanted money that day.
And we are listening to the testimony of Leon Jacob in his murder for hire type situation here that he's being tried on. I'm here with Mark Eiglarsh. Did I get it right, Mark?
So close, that was almost perfect. I love it, Amy.
You told me it's like W and BC. I have to emphasize the I. So I did my best there. Let me ask you about this testimony, because it's gripping to me, the fact that he's being confronted, Leon Jacob, with this audio from his meeting with this undercover officer who he thought was a hitman that he was hiring to convince his girlfriend to leave town. So we're at the point where the possibility of killing her comes up. And every time the officer brings up that he has to get rid of the body, or that he might have to hurt her, or that he can't guarantee that she won't get hurt, Jacob says, I don't want her hurt. I don't want you to hurt her. So the way that him and his attorney are framing this is they're saying basically, as Jacob said, this is the officer repeatedly escalating the situation and with his quote unquote one-track mind communicating to me that he's got to hurt her, or he wants to hurt her, or he has no choice to hurt her. And I keep saying, that's not my intent. That's not what I want. Can that save him?
It might. I don't think it necessarily will, but it might. It brings up, let's say, John DeLorean, right? He allegedly back in the day said, no, I don't want to be involved in this, unlawful stuff. And
Yeah.
allegedly they kept overcoming his rejection of involvement. And that's what he's trying to do here. He's trying to allege that they had a narrative and it didn't fit what his plan was, and they tried to make him do it.
So he's essentially trying to make an argument for entrapment here, right?
Sounds like that's what it is, yes.
But then the question arises, well, why wouldn't you call things off if you felt the guy was going to go down that path and that's not what you wanted?
Well, that's a good point, Madam Prosecutor. That's exactly what's going to be argued. But here's the thing that we're ignoring. The elephant in the room is not what he's saying, but to me, how he's saying it. So ask me, Amy, for example, what's the weather like in Florida?
What's the weather like in Florida, Mark?
Nice.
Yeah,
That's what
you're
I'm saying. That's what he's doing in every answer. Is anybody else noticing that?
Yeah, but it seems like he thinks he's being totally upfront and honest because he's really snapping back with his answers to things. I mean, he even said, you can try to paint me, as somebody who's trying to kill the ex-girlfriend, but that wasn't my intention. Just because you try to paint me that way, that doesn't mean that I'm guilty of capital murder just because I'm a womanizer, for example.
I might be very alone in my interpretation of how he's answering the questions. I can only tell you the following. It isn't working for me in terms of his delivery.
Yeah.
And number two, especially when he was asked the question, well, why didn't you say something when you learned that he had been killed? He said, I don't have the words. Come up with the words. Your life's fine. And the second thing I'm saying, other than it doesn't work for me, the way that he's answering, is that if this was my client, this would be unacceptable.
Yeah.
We would take a break and I'd smack him around a little bit.
Speaking of breaks, Mark, we're going to go to a quick commercial break now, but we'll come back and discuss this and hear more of Leon Jacobs' testimony right after this. And welcome back to the Law and Crime Network. I'm your host, Amy Dash. Let's go right back to the courtroom now and listen to the testimony of Leon Jacob as he tries to explain what he meant when he was having conversations with an undercover hitman / police officer.
In terms of I really like her family.
Was that an option you considered?
Absolutely not. I really didn't want any harm to come to anybody at all. I mean, the idea of hurting anybody was...
And then shortly after that,
I've done things in my life that close people to find their master. But I couldn't do this myself because of the implications.
what are you talking about?
I think I'm just...
Mark, so we were talking before about this guy's affect, and you were
Right.
saying that it's not doing it for you. And I was saying, I think that he's sort of taking this approach, like, that he wants to act like he has nothing to hide, and that this wasn't a big deal, but it was all the fault of the officer for trying to just obsessively talk about killing his ex-girlfriend when he kept saying, no, that's not the plan, that's not the intent here.
You believe that, or you're just trying to play that as host?
I think that's what his game plan is with the way that he's presenting himself.
I don't know what his game plan is. It sucks. Whatever it is, it sucks. That's
But he's
bad.
answering every question, Mark. I mean, that's what I mean by him being upfront and trying to portray honesty, because it doesn't seem like he's intentionally hiding anything. He's, at least the way he's answering the questions.
Answering questions
Yeah.
doesn't make it good.
Well, what do you think of him even being on this stand? Was this a smart move?
Yeah, you have to. He's dead otherwise. You listen to those audio recordings, and listen, to me, he's done. When he said, do what you got to do, whatever that line was, if I'm the prosecutors, I spend, $39, and I put it on a big billboard in the room. That's it. You're done.
Yeah. Even if his argument is that he was pressured into saying, okay, whatever. Even if he didn't say something to that effect, if we don't end up hearing something to that effect on the tapes, the fact that he still goes through with it when this guy, all he does is talk about killing somebody.
Okay. This guy is a very smart, sophisticated, accomplished guy. Entrapment defenses rarely work, which is why when clients try to get me to do it, I yell at them that they're out of their minds, okay? It's the last resort. And guess what? When you have audio tapes like this, it is the last resort. So he's trying to make it fit. God bless him. That's what he needs to do for himself. Wonderful. It just doesn't seem to fit for me.
But will it support a lesser charge? Like he was just into the kidnapping because he wanted her to leave town, but it's not supportive of capital murder, these tapes.
Jurors have done some insane things over the years, and that's what makes our legal system wonderful, and that's why your network is needed and why people watch it, because you never know the crazy stuff that's going to go down. So yeah, maybe.
Well, thank you, Mark Eiglarsh. I really appreciate it.
Gesundheit.
All right, take care. We'll speak to you soon. We're going to go to a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to hear from Vincent Hill, who is a law enforcement expert. He's actually in the Tex McIver trial. Tex McIver accused of shooting and killing his wife intentionally. He says it was an accident. He was a prominent Atlanta attorney. And so Vincent Hill has been in the courtroom all morning, and we are going to hear from him about what unfolded. So stay with us. We will be back very soon after a very quick commercial break.